W2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. You have found us. Thanks for joining us here today. As, we've got a great weekend. Sun is out from the High Fall Studios in downtown Rochester. My name is Gene Battaglia. 585-866-4326. That is our phone number. We're on 95.7 FM, AM 950. We're streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. We are on YouTube and Twitch. We're doing the show today for you on this holiday because we're going to be out tonight on a holiday at the Red Wing game. And it's a great night to be out there because you have playoff fever baseball here for the Red Wings in the month of June. We'll talk about that certainly. Dan Drummey here, Tim Schneider here. Dan, Tim, if I could start with this today, and thanks for everybody for joining us. So for people that want to get into this business, you got to do whatever's possible. I don't think that kind of registers. You're not going to be working in a big market. Maybe if you're really, really good, but you got to take whatever you can. So it's within that context that this is years ago. I'm working for a different radio station, and the only on-air thing I could get there at that time was hosting paid programming. Paid programming on a Sunday night. The show was called Ask the Expert. Okay, so the Ask the Expert show, and mainly it would be financial planners hawking their product. Like, hey, long-term planning. Let's talk about long-term planning and why it's important to have this. So when you end up in a nursing home or what, it was awful radio.
The Italian carousel.
Right, like things like that, right?
I didn't mean to follow that up after awful radio, but
well,
proceed.
We are friends, all right, forever, part of a station. So I at least had the self-awareness to know, like, people would ask me, well, what show is it? I'm like, you know what? It's the award-winning Ask the Expert. So it became
which is perfect.
Which became this kind of joke that we would have that for Ask the Expert, it was award-winning to the point where people just started calling that, to the point where one day the station promo, tune in tonight for the award-winning Ask the Expert. We didn't win any award. I just kind of made it up. The show was so bad, but then people started to believe it. It's like you say it so often. So I'm just telling you the story that skip ahead years later, we actually won an award. A pretty big award here in the sports bar. Danger still the manager here. This goes back to last training camp, and I got to make sure, Tim, I get this right, what exactly we picked up here. We won the New York State Broadcasters Association Award for the category of Best Single Locally Originated Sports Broadcast.
That's pretty impressive. Look at what you did.
Like, that's cool. And this was for training camp. And heck, last year there was so much that went into training camp, and it's not a me award, it's not a Danger award, it's a you, the Rochester listener, and let's share in this kind of award because we beat everybody out from the state on that. So if this was this time, if this is for last year, obviously, and that's how the cycle kind of works. Like anything that happened in the fall or the summer last year, and then they get around to awarding it just now. Which is great. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Dan DeLorean. Thanks, Max Sheedy, who does all the video work behind the scenes. And Dan, of course, Pizza Dude, Derek, who is, name me a better engineer than Derek. And for Danger, who, look, I miss doing the show with the guy. I'm not going to lie to you. But he is now king manager here, and he put that out there. I had no idea that was coming. And so that is kind of that was a cool thing I wanted to share with everybody that think about who we beat out here, like anybody downstate. Now, if it were this year, what I was going to say is, there's this story called the Knicks, and I'm sure there's, like whoever was doing the local show down there on WFAN or whatever it is would win that award. But this wasn't for small market or mid-sized market. It was New York State. So I'm not one to self promote or do anything like that. But if you made a choice to make us part of your day, all right, then let's go. We're in that category. Now, what happens this camp? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. We're waiting to hear from the Bills. We don't even know where the games are going to be airing this year. So I got to be kind of honest that in the Rochester market, they haven't figured that out yet. So, but hopefully the Bills will see this and they'll say, all right, come on back and do some work with us.
How cool is it now that you can call the award-winning Good Smoke barbecue line to talk on a on an award-winning radio show?
That's it. Good Smoke Bar, which if you go to Good Smoke Barbecue, as I did last night, Father's Day came a little early, right? And if you go, they have a few rooms there. They have the upper room, they have the lower room, they have the room off the side, they have the room on the patio. We went to the patio thinking we would be fine, except that high wind warning wasn't going away. And as soon as we're gonna, as much as we'd like to eat outdoors, we're gonna go back inside. And we went to the room where they have all the awards there. And they get trophies and plaques for, they have all these barbecue competitions around the country. So Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, proud sponsor of the Sports Bar. 585-866-4326. That's the Wingman line, award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodsmokeBBQ.com. On the show today, hour number 2. It's been way too long since we had guest number 1 on the show. And by guest number 1, I mean this goes back to a draft show. Like the first time we were doing something like this, I met Ryan Talbot, and he was great. Came all the way up from Olean to talk about the Bills training with Cleveland for Sammy Watkins. Oh, my gosh. All right, that was 2014. Skip ahead 12 years. Ryan joining us today. He was also the first guest when we came back from the pandemic, thinking, oh, my gosh, maybe the show won't ever come back. It did. Ryan was there for us. So Ryan Talbot, who has been with us since day one, will be joining us hour number 2 because, hey, there's some Bills questions heading to Fisher for sure. Like some other teams have big questions. And, look, what we do here, if you're new to our show, it's not surface level stuff. We try to, dig a little deeper. And I'm just wondering, with this running back the Bills signed, UFL MVP, basically, is running back actually going to be kind of the sneaky competition at the back end? It's James Cook's offense, right? And Ty Johnson is your third down back. And Ray Davis has his place. But I don't know if Ray Davis is a leading man. And if you get one injury, then what? That's the question I have. That would be the one that, all right, who will be the guy that you will see during training camp? And the guy I would think would be Ian Wheeler. Ian Wheeler is the guy the Bills signed, formerly of Chicago, formerly of New Orleans. Really didn't see any time in meaningful football. But the weird stat here for Ian Wheeler, in those preseason games, he has scored 4 touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills. You're laughing at that because
that's an impressive stat, but it's a strange thing to have happen in preseason.
It tells you what the preseason's all about because you watch the preseason game and everything that happened in the game just kind of evaporates because you only have so much mind share when it comes to sports. If I asked you, hey, what happened in the Denver game in the playoffs last year? You could rattle 10 things off. Hey, what happened in the Baltimore season opener? Now, maybe there's a game along the way in the regular season, but I couldn't tell you anything about the the one Chicago preseason game. I remember one pass from Caleb Williams. That was kind of the idea, right? Oh, here's our first look at Caleb Williams. That's the only thing I remember about that game. The only thing I remember about last year's Bears the opposite preseason game, was on Sunday night on Fox. Okay, we're gonna get the national audience, and the Bills didn't play anybody meaningful, and the Bills lost. And I don't remember a darn thing about that. I don't remember even seeing Ian Wheeler's name called, but somebody that came from a small school in Howard, somebody that, all right, he was the United Bowl MVP. Got to make sure I get that right. Is this something to kind of monitor? The Bills did make that official, by the way. So after we got off the air yesterday. So we'll talk about that and other things with Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout Podcast coming up in hour number 2. Bottom of this hour, hey, a little Nighthawk news as they did hire a head coach. And I look at last year's Nighthawk team, and, it just was – this time last year, we didn't know if the Nighthawks would have a team. July, we didn't know anything. We get to training camp, and Pete Gwelly joins us, and, with us, he says, no, you don't have anything to worry about. And, okay, they're in process of selling and all sorts of rumors. Seneca Nation ends up buying. It's in August at that point. There's a staff of 2 people. Dan Carey, who's the GM, and Craig Rudzinski, and no one else. You have a think about that. Like, where do you begin? They had a head coach. They had some players. And it takes kind of a different turn where, hey, they come out hot. They win the first 2, and then everything kind of falls apart. You could say it was because the goaltender wasn't available. Whatever it is, that was a massive disappointment. I don't want to root for anybody to lose their job, but if there was time for a coaching change, that would have been it. So, all right, let's go. Let's see what happens as the new head coach of the Nighthawks will be joining us here in just a little bit. His name's Troy Cordingley. Won a championship as a player, won a championship, well, actually 2 as a player and 2 as a coach. One as a coach with Calgary and Toronto, also was the head coach of the Bandits, and 1 year out in Vancouver. And this will be stop number 5 for him. But he also spent here 1 year as a Nighthawk player. So we'll talk to the new head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks, Troy Cordingley. Look, we want to spread the love here around. You're tuning into these 2 hours because we're not Buffalo. We're a Rochester sports talk show. 1 to 3, tell a friend here on WGR Rochester. Gene Battaglia with you, Tim Schneider as well. And, yeah, we're going to be out of the ballpark tonight. And
you getting nervous?
No, not really. No. I did throw the ball around yesterday with my 20-year-old son, who's got an arm, and I got popped in the jaw with baseball.
Oh, yikes!
But we're fine. Obviously, I'm talking. Everything's fine. Yeah, there was a little windy last. We got home from Good Smoke. I'm like, let's go over to the field, and my plan was all right because the difference is, see, you picked up on this. I'm a terrible listener. I suck at listening, which is it's a bad skill, when you want to interview people. Dan Mason said on our show that I could throw on the rubber, which I didn't think that was possible. So I'm like, well, I need to go somewhere that has a rubber. Well, many of these high school fields right now, you just can't walk on. They're gated up. However, Spencerport is readily available, so I go over to the local high school. Not only is the mound not covered up, Tim, because usually you don't have a full tarp. You have just kind of the tarp over the dirt mound. The mound is essentially gone. Like, what the hell, people? To you youth teams, cover the mound so it's gone. So basically, I was throwing from 60 feet 6 inches, but I didn't have the mound. Should I be concerned that I didn't really have that elevation last night?
If you've got the distance down, I think that you can accommodate for the bump. That said, I've never thrown from a bump before, so
really, you
no.
never went over to a field and just kind of goofed around and what it would be like.
I may have just screwed around, but I never did it nothing competitively or serious, so I didn't retain anything from that experience if I did it. I don't remember doing it. I may have, but I think Dan Mason had said on Monday, you just have to accommodate for that elevation and aim up even though it looks like you're going down.
Right. Yeah.
So,
aim high. So that'll be kind
throw
of
with the eyeballs and hit him in the chest.
Yeah, that'll be it. And watch, I'll aim too high, and at least there's a backstop with netting that I won't hurt anybody.
Please don't hit a patron.
No, we don't want to do that.
Or a fan or whatever we called him in ESL Ballpark.
But if you're coming out tonight, we would love to meet you. We did give away all the tickets. We wanted to make sure that we got them out ahead of time. So if you know you won. So, but if you are going tonight, whether that's through us or you're just a season ticket holder, or hey, it's a fun night at the ballpark, Tim and I will be kind of around on the concourse there, and Dandelion too. So I think the easiest way to describe us, because if you're watching on YouTube, you see that Tim kind of looks like a cross between Shaggy and, I can't say Tim Lincecum because Tim Lincecum never had a beard, but that's how I originally, when I met you originally, you look like the former San Francisco Giants pitcher Tim Lincecum.
I did back in the day. But then I could grow facial hair.
Then you could. Yeah, then you grew up. So
it's kind of. I aged out.
So, yeah, like if you look at your college pictures when you were the banana at Bonaventure, it's like, wait a second.
Same guy,
but like you look like you're 12. So like I understand why you went full beard here. If you see a guy, is that an accurate description? See a guy that looks like Shaggy?
Yeah, I am not offended by it if that's what you were shooting for, but I have heard a bunch of things. I look like Nigel Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries. That's a Nickelodeon show that.
Okay, over my head.
I'm a little bit too old for it, but people have referred to me as that. I don't know. I'm an ugly radio guy. If somebody looks ugly, it's probably me. Talk to me.
No, it's the ugly radio guys. Or hey, you know what? We're down there throwing the first pitch out, and when Dan introduces us, then you'll see what we look like, right? And then we'll just kind of wave to you and everything. But look,
gonna be
let's not bury the lead. It's great that we're gonna be out there tonight. We're out there watching meaningful baseball. Problem is, last night, Toledo hung 5 on the plate last night in the 7th. They end up taking that game. Memphis won. So if there's any silver lining with Memphis winning, I guess we don't have to worry about Nashville. Nashville is 3 back, and that would mean essentially they would have to sweep and the Red Wings would have to lose 3 straight. So it's either going to be the Wings or Memphis now at this point. And all it takes tonight is a Wings win and a Memphis loss, and then you're in the driver's seat. But, the Memphis magic number would be 3.
Yes.
That's kind of the way to kind of look at it from that angle.
But it's now a full 1-game lead rather than the fractions of points.
Well, that doesn't matter because, there's no way, unless there's going to be some weird cancellation, the Wings will win out on percentage points. That's so in all intents and purpose, it's 1 game up. They're on the Wings, and even if they lose tonight, they're not going to be dead even. The Wings will be back in front, so there's not going to end in a tie between Wings and Memphis unless there's 2 cancellations in Memphis, 2 cancellations in Rochester, something like that. Forecast should look pretty decent here tonight. Before we get to Troy Coringly, I want to kind of get your thoughts on this because it's fantastic that we have soccer and kind of a bummer that they're going to put this at 3 o'clock. I would have loved to, be doing the show with you, maybe giving some updates today, like how we were doing during Olympic hockey. But hey, a lot of people will be watching, and that'll be kind of cool at 3 o'clock today. We also, for the month of July, baseball and the All-Star game. Now, years ago, they awarded this All-Star game to Philadelphia for the celebration of America's 250th. So with that celebration, you would hope that the main event, and the main event, let's not kid ourselves, the main event is not the All-Star game. It isn't. It's Home Run Derby. Home Run Derby is the thing, and what's going to be different this year, well, couple things. One, not on ESPN. Netflix bought the rights to this. Okay, so now it goes to the streaming platform, and I think most of us have it. So it's neither here or nor there. But number 2 on this would be the format, and I don't get this. So for the first time since 2014, we're not going to have timed appearances, which I thought that was beneficial. Without the timed appearances, somebody theoretically could just be waiting for the perfect strike. And I think, hey, get somebody up there who can throw you meatballs, right? That's also part of the equation. So Home Run Derby now, the format has changed. You're going to get 20 swings round 1, no clock. If you hit a home run on the last swing, you can keep hacking away until you don't hit a home run. Okay, fine. It's an exhibition. I don't know why. Maybe why they did that, because it will be longer. There doesn't need to be as long commercial breaks on Netflix, maybe, where ESPN needed to get those things in with the timed rounds that made it more natural to break the commercial. I don't know the real reason behind that. But this year it's in Philadelphia, as we mentioned. None of the 8 participants have been announced, but their feelers have been put out. And kind of like how the NFL will drip information, we'll have that drip of information coming soon, like who's actually going to participate. And if I may make some suggestions here, you need a Philadelphia rep. I would be okay, as a Met fan, I'd be okay with 2 Philly reps.
Yeah.
Schwarber and Harper. Either one of those guys want to do it, you're in. I just hope it's not Alec Boehm or some, no. Give me, like, the guy that is actually known for hitting home runs and that Philly could kind of appreciate one or two of them. Let's not go with, somebody down in the order. Let's go with somebody that grew up outside of Philadelphia, New Jersey, who some people, Mike Danger, would call a coward because you sat in Southern California. What about Mike Trout? Here's a fun fact. Mike Trout has never participated in a home run derby. That seems hard to believe, right?
It does.
Mike Trout, for years and years and years, dude, you got to do this one. Mike Trout this year, I don't want to say having a renaissance, but people would pay attention if he's in the field of 8. I'd also like to see Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso in Oriole gear. And Pete, look, I think most Met fans, we're with you, buddy. You should have been brought back. I don't blame you for taking the bigger money. Most people don't. So, you know what? Go out there, hack away, win it, and kind of stick it to Mets management. That's the way I kind of view that. What about somebody that maybe you're not familiar with? Maybe you've heard the name. Maybe you couldn't really kind of take in, but the White Sox aren't on national television. But what about Murakami from the White Sox, the rookie that came over? The point is, like, I just rattled off 5 guys.
There's a ton this year. It's kind of awesome. You can name like 25 or 30.
That is the point. There is so much talent in baseball. And for both sides, please wake the heck up and do not drag us into a labor strife. Because if you do, people will move on. People will find other things. There are other sports that can fill the vacancy. So be careful, baseball. We'll talk to the new head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks. That's coming up next. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot some Bills football. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. This is Gene Battaglia on the award-winning Sports Bar.
Johnson at 585-423-2946. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Rochester Red Wings a game behind Memphis in the race for the playoffs. 3 games left before the end of the first half of the season. Wings manager Matthew LeCroy making the most of this.
We just got to go and fight, compete. Right now things are going our way. I mean, you look at the inning we had tonight. That's just the way things are. But we got to fight. We talk about it every day in our bats. We put ourselves in a good spot. I think we're 7 or 8 games down going into May. We're playing for something. Just go out and play fearlessly. Not worry about making mistakes and see what happens.
On the Major League schedule, the Yankees tonight hosting the Reds. Only afternoon game has the Blue Jays at Wrigley Field. That to start at 2:20. U.S. Open leader is Wyndham Clark. He's got a 4-shot lead here in the second round. Soccer World Cup, U.S. facing Australia coming up at 3 o'clock. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Shout out to Ian Mills over at Channel 10 because he's great at digging up footage, putting it out there. Because just to see, whoa, this is how it looked back then. John Grant and the Nighthawks and the teal and the purple, and maybe that'll come back at some point. And playing that one season in Rochester was Troy Cordingley, and then he shifted into becoming a coach, a successful coach, championship in Calgary, championship in Toronto, and now named the new head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks. Troy joining us here on the phone this afternoon. Troy, congratulations. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks, Gene, for asking. I'm real good. I'm excited and looking forward to it.
What do you remember about your one season in Rochester as a player, Troy?
Well, I played a lot of games at Blue Cross, and I was a Buffalo Bandit guy for a long time. And I knew that the rivalry was real good. The fans didn't like me then, but then when I was part of the Nighthawks, it was real good. The fans were very knowledgeable and very supportive. So, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we're gonna I'm just looking past the. We don't want to talk about that team in orange now, right? You're with us here, right? I don't even like referring to them by name. If you're fine with that, Troy. Troy, I'm
fine with it. Yes.
Good. At what point as a player did or was this kind of the plan all along? Like, hey, because it's not an easy path to go into coaching. You become successful at this. It's had a lot of stops along the way as well. At what point as a player did you realize this would be a path you would like to take?
It was towards the end of my career, probably the last 3 or 4 years. I started coaching minor lacrosse with a buddy when I lived in Oakville, Ontario, and he got me involved with his team, and I liked it, and it was a different reward, so to speak, giving back to the game and teaching the kids and things like that. And my, I'm a very competitive person, and I knew that my days were limited, and I just wanted to carry on. I love the game so much. And then, I lucked out when I retired. Darius Kilgore had asked me to join staff, and I did that as an assistant coach, and then, one thing led to another, and here we are right now.
Yeah, as the Nighthawks here, year number 2 under steady ownership. Of course, there was the Pagulas, and that they were steady too, but they also owned another team. Like, what does it mean though, just to have that in this league? Just kind of have that owner that is going to make sure that you get you the resources here to win, Troy.
It's huge. And I've been around some teams where, ownership has not been around, and it's big because the players, they feed off of it, and they realize how much time and effort and how much ownership cares. And the ownership in Rochester, it's real good. And the support is tremendous. And, they have the same goals as the coaching staff, as the players. Like we want to get to the promised land, and we want to win the big prize.
Troy Cordingley is the head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks, where, all right, we're months away, I guess, from a schedule coming out, but you certainly know a little bit, I would think, about the personnel on this team. What are your initial thoughts on this roster that you're going to be coaching up here, Coach?
Well, I mean, as an outsider, I just know there's a lot of incredible pieces already in place in Rochester. So, our job as a coaching staff is to push these guys to their absolute limits so that we can be successful. Do we need to make some tweaks? Yeah, I'm sure we do. And that will, that's what'll be happening over the next couple of weeks or couple of months. But this team is a very talented team, and it's a responsibility of the coaching staff to push them to that next step.
I have to ask the question, and it's a difficult one for you to answer because we don't want to, speak, ill of anyone else, right? But last year was a disappointment. You started out 2-0. What happened there? Was it as simple as, okay, you didn't have the goalie, and then things kind of snowball from there? I mean, from what you understand, how did things kind of go south last year, Troy?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure about that. Like it's, I'm, again, I was an outsider there. I haven't had a chance to speak with the players. Obviously, they were battling and things like that. I just think that, a little bit of accountability had an issue, with some things last year, and it's just the confidence. This league is so hard to win. If you're not prepared, and you're not willing to sacrifice, and you're not willing to give, whatever you can for the team, then you're going to be on the losing side of a lot of games. So, the coaching staff and I are going to dig deep and figure some stuff out, but we're going to set a plan. And, I can promise that, when the fans come to the Blue Cross Arena, they're going to see a team that's going to be refused to be outworked. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to have a fast style of lacrosse. And, it's our job to put these players in successful situations so that, we can reach the goal of winning.
How are you as a head coach? Because you played in a different era where, hey, you would have that sort of maybe every once in a while totalitarian head coach, and maybe with today's athlete that isn't something. Are you more of a teacher? You mentioned accountability, and I think that'll perk some ears up there. But how would you describe your style as a head coach in terms of relating to the players? If they need a kick in the butt, will you kick them in the butt? Will you just try to communicate? How would you describe your style, Troy? I'm intense. I'm not going to lie there. I've been very fortunate to have had some very good coaches ahead of me and mentors and I'm demanding. We're going to be demanding as a coaching staff, and if guys can't handle that, I'm a firm believer that when a coach is in my grill, and it just means that he wants more. He knows I can give more. And, if you can't handle that, then you're in the wrong dressing room and you're in the wrong profession, right? But having said that, I'm not just, going around and getting in people's faces. I like to teach. I'm a teacher. I just retired from teaching for 30 years. The bottom line is, if you are working hard for the team and the team comes first,
then we're going to get along.
What's next here on the agenda or the rundown? You've got a lot of work ahead of you. So like you have free agency, draft, all this stuff still coming up here. So like what are the top priorities as you're getting in your new job here, Coach?
Well, the number one priority for me is to talk to the players. Introduce myself to some of the guys that I don't know, or we're acquainted, and then just do a little digging and things like that, and then obviously we have the draft to prepare for. We have the third overall pick, and free agency is there's some players that are available, and guys that that can play. So we got to look at that, and then in the immediate future here is we have Kyle Clay is going to coach the offense. Matt Dillell is going to be our video coach, and we're looking for a defensive coach, and it's going to have to be somebody that shares the same philosophy as the rest of the coaching staff does, and go from there.
Yeah, and the connection to our town. Now, we know that, the vast majority of players are up north of the border, and that's where a lot of the practices are too. But as far as you getting acclimated to being kind of, a member of our community, what can we kind of expect? Will you be down here and hopefully maybe kind of meet and greet at some point? What can kind of fans expect to connect with you here, Troy?
Well, for sure. I will be down there. I will, do as much, events or whatever you have it. I'm very approachable. I know that from my playing days, I've got a couple friends down there that have been long-time fans, and when I was there last year with Calgary. It was great to see them. You haven't seen them for a few years, but we're going to be involved in the community, and whatever the fans, they just that we are as strong as our fans, and we respect everyone, and the history of this team is real good.
Are you jumping into the World Cup? 6-0 for Team Canada. I would. What is it like up there with everybody now on board? Canada's first ever win here in the World Cup.
I'm going to be very honest with you here. I do not like soccer. I do not like the way they flop and flip and do all that, that soft stuff. I'm not a fan of it, so I have not paid any attention to it. But I do know that, it's been on the news and people are happy about it, but I'm not a fan.
That is honesty that we all can respect. Well, we're really looking forward to the schedule coming out, and certainly you mentioned the draft, free agency. Our guest has been Troy Cordingley, new head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks. And Troy, we're gonna be touching base with you once we get closer to the season here. Really appreciate the time today. Congratulations once again.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time, too.
Thank you,
Gene.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too. Troy Cordingley.
Refreshing honesty out of the coaching box.
That's
very surprised by the lack of pride,
though. That would be, yeah. I thought that was just a softball right at the end. I didn't see that coming. That was, Coach Saban, what do you think about the election? There's an election? I'm just trying to win the football game here this week. It's like, wow. That's like that was like very Saban like that is the story in Canada. If you're not familiar, they've never won a World Cup game. Now, you kind of get the golden ticket, right? You're the co-host here, like you get the team, and boy, they dominated. Absolutely dominated over Qatar. And great. All right, let's see how far Canada can go here. And that's where Troy resides, and I thought that would be just kind of it's an interesting – and look, you got to respect that, right? We're not soccer haters here, but I'm not the soccer expert. I'm just kind of along for the ride. The United States will be taking on Australia, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Haven't mentioned to our guy, he shot an 80 yesterday, Jackson Ormond. So Ormond it started off well, very difficult in the end. So he has yet to tee off here. Or maybe he has, but we'll keep you updated on that. As right now, U.S. Open, Wyndham Clark, a 69 today after yesterday's 64. So, right, not too many guys right now that are under par. 1, 2, 3, 4. 11 guys under par. That's it. Rory being one of them, by the way. So Rory will be teeing off at 2:02 with Ludwig Ahlberg coming up. So we'll keep you updated on the U.S. Open leaderboard.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
If you're new to the show, that is a late John Sterling. We've got the blessings from all the regulars. Keep using it. John would let us use it. That means breaking news. Tim Schneider, what do we got?
I've got for you from Kevin Weeks that Zach Benson is in talks to sign a 7-year, $7 million annual average deal with the Buffalo Sabres. So a 7-year, $49 million contract. Not official, but per Kevin Weeks and his sources, that is what is going down right now.
That's it.
That's a great deal.
That's a great deal. Now,
and he's still a kid.
He's still a kid, and mind you, you're paying a little bit more right now, but at the back end, and we can all agree, Zach Benson, you want him here. Yes, that is exactly what you want. Those players aren't readily available. Guys who can put the puck in the net, play defense from the forward position, and just be a bleeping pest. Wow, that is a little surprising. Okay, what does that tell you about Alex Tuch? We're not hearing a peep. Alex Tuch is going to end up in Seattle or Utah or so, and I can't be upset. You as a Sabre fan, you can't be upset if this is the last time somebody can make big money, and if the money is a little bit more somewhere else, but it could be a lot more somewhere else because, I mean, I'm not the one to dump on our state, but you have to at least admit that, $10 million a year in one state is not equate to $10 million a year in another state. So, but for Benson, that would be a good thing. Nobody would say that's a bad thing. And
it's short enough of a deal where if he overproduces at that, he will get a monster deal because it'll still only be 26 or 27 when this contract expires. Meanwhile, Alex Tuch wants too long, asking for too much. I would love to have him on the Sabres, don't get me wrong. But it's too long, too much. And
well, yeah, but he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a really good player. So, but you can get away with it because of Kulik, Oslin, Hellenius.
Benson even, yeah.
Well, yeah, Benson, but I'm thinking of who would you move up to that line? That's going to be fascinating here this next week. We're going to talk a lot of hockey next week. Also, the RIT Tigers put out their schedule today officially.
Looks good.
Michigan State. We knew that was coming. That's the Blue Cross Arena game. RPI, where you are not going to wear RPI games going to the Coliseum. No, you're not wearing gear.
Oh, man, I got to think about it. I'll have to consult the family. I'll go neutral. Just wear black.
Good call. We will be talking Ryan Talbot, some Bills talk coming up in hour number 2. You are welcome to join us at 585-866-4326. Tim's Terrible Take coming your way next year on the Sports Bar.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Well, this isn't good. Christian Pulisic will not play coming up at 3 o'clock. He's got a calf injury. And just the coach saying he's not available. Not going in any details any further than that. Christian Pulisic, he would duck into Rochester.
Rochester ties indeed, yeah.
Like his dad was the head coach, check that, assistant coach of the Rhinos, and we had him in one time, and he, my gosh, like talk about media training, just dumped on the fans here. Like, all right, like, I'm sorry, it's April, and the attendance isn't good here. And then Christian Pulisic, like we knew he was floating into town. And it was one of those, he's coming in just to hang with his dad, and he's up in the box there, but didn't really kind of connect with anybody. There wasn't like this meet and greet or any, you would hope for like a youth group or something like that. And people were kind of disappointed, but I get it, that Pulisic, wasn't here for that purpose and wasn't being paid for that purpose. He was just there to see his dad. So kind of just a memory that Christian Pulisic actually would float into Rochester every so often. Not playing again, U.S. and Australia coming up at 3.
Coach Cordingley was right. It's been 5 days.
5 days.
He wore a ball off the shin 5 days ago. Hockey players playing with a broken leg. Lacrosse player playing with a broken leg.
I don't know, Tim. I am not going anywhere near that. I'm not, don't question an injury. Time for Tim's terrible take.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
That may have been my terrible take, but this is what I find a good take. And again, we've discussed this.
It was a terrible take. Like, you're not really hurt. Get out there.
You got to get out there. It's Team USA in the World Cup at home. You go play the game even if you can only play a half.
You got to win this game. Win this, and then they'll be advancing the knockout. But go ahead.
I digress. Baseball, as we've discussed a little bit, is kind of staring down the barrel of what I think is almost a guarantee at this point to be a work stoppage. And the owners proposed another thing yesterday to basically axe the draft. And they are doing themselves no favors in these negotiations. And every time they do this, it's designed, I think, to make the players look bad. But in my opinion, the players look better. They're trying to cut the draft from 20 rounds to 12. They're exiling high school prospects from it, which would mean Bryce Harper has to go. It's like the NBA rule where you have to go to college first. Bryce Harper went to junior college as a high school junior just to be draft eligible. You're going to see more players doing that, and it's going to hurt them in the long run because they have to go get educated or whatever the guise is for this. But it's to save money. They want to cut down on the pool signings. They want to have an international draft. I think the international draft could be a good idea, but the way that they're rolling this out and proposing it, absolutely dreadful, and they're going to lose fans left and right. And you talked about it last segment with the home run derby. Just figure out a way to grow the game, and they're just playing whack-a-mole on themselves, and it happens constantly. And it's just not a good spot for baseball to be in. And the more that these offers and things come out, like everything in this proposal, terrible.
It's it's the storm we see coming, and I wish it would just kind of go away. I don't understand why I think that's the only thing I think most baseball fans can get behind, like the idea of posting and everything else. No, just make one draft. That's it. Now, posting, that's I guess a different story. If you decide to draft this player, you're going to have to pay, the rights overseas. Fine. But just to have that worked outside the draft and have, the wealthier teams or the teams that want to spend money get these players, not a good sign too, because if there's one player that I think gets dinged for the work stoppage or work stoppages, it's Tom Glavine. Tom Glavine, part of those Braves teams, Tom Glavine, 300 300 win pitcher. Tom Glavine, guy was in those funny commercials, but then also you remember him with the pouty face, at the end, going out and just saying, "Oh yeah, we're canceling the World Series." Like, he was the face of the Players Association. So, if I'm, the union right now, don't put a face. Don't have any of your players right now be the face here of a negotiation. That you shouldn't be putting out a Bryce Harper or anybody like that, right? They have their opinion, but you don't want them up there in the end. Okay, and maybe they figured that part out. Why did I bring up Glavine? Because he predicts that this is going to be like 1994. Like both sides are dug in. So what 1994 was, that was a strike that just kind of, it was different. This is going to be different. This is going to be a lockout. And my question to the owners is, how much money do you want to lose here? Like at what point do you, because the losses will start to pile up. So I don't want to look forward to that whatsoever, Tim. They're just not the day for that. Because you know why? We're throwing out the first pitch tonight, buddy.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're paying with the first pitch. We're going to address the crowd, too, at around 6:10. So if you're going in tonight, it's a 6:45 first pitch. Now, we just did have a rain shower pass through here, but it kind of looks like once this is over, we'll be fine here for some baseball tonight. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout podcast coming up. We'll also take some of your calls at 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here at WGR Rochester.
WBEE HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station, WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Playoff fever at ESL Ballpark. The Wings are a game behind Memphis for the race for the playoffs. 3 games left, including tonight. Matthew LeCroy on the Mud Hens.
They always play well. You know, if you look at the hitting part, they're tough outs. I mean, they got 1 through 9. It's sort of similar to our lineup. They work you. If you make mistakes, they make you pay. And they had our number. But I believe we'll be better. I trust the guys. They know it's a stake. We just got to continue to believe that we can do it and go have fun and play as hard as you can.
Yankees host the Reds tonight. U.S. Open, Wyndham Clark is their leader. He shot a 69 today, 7 under for the tournament. That's a 4-shot lead right now. Webster's Jackson Ormond teeing off second round coming up at 2:46. Christian Pulisic is out for this game coming up at 3 o'clock, United States, facing Australia. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Stay for a while, you're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, it's sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master stroke. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much harder than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills, Americans, Red Wings and Nighthawks. Sports bar. For Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2, and yeah, like of those teams rattle off in the special open there. Yeah, we have the Sabres news from Kevin Weeks that they're negotiating a deal right now. Zach Benson perhaps sticking around 7 years, $7 million a year. That would be a bargain in my opinion. We were just talking about the Red Wings, and hopefully the rain will end here, and we'll get some baseball here tonight at the ballpark as the Wings right now. They're actually a game back of Memphis. Should Memphis lose tonight and the Wings win, they wouldn't be tied technically. The Wings would be ahead on percentage points. So I still think the Wings have the upper hand here because Nashville is a tough opponent for Memphis. So hopefully, come on, Nashville, do us all a little solid here. We also, look, Nighthawks there. We talked to the new head coach, Troy Cordingley, where, hey, the top story today kind of bringing, like, wait a second. Christian Pulisic isn't playing? Calf injury? What? Hey, what? It is a long layoff between games, no doubt, but you figure that long layoff, and now this is a little concerning that the U.S. National team will be without their star against Australia. Australia's won 3 of the last 4 World Cup games, by the way, so it's not like there's some sort of pushover here. They can perhaps bring it here. This was from earlier today. Because also a big story to our friends north of the border. Hey, Canada, they get their first win ever in the World Cup, defeating Qatar by a 6-0 score. Like, that is domination. And every Canadian friend I have, you just look on their social, they're going crazy. And Troy Cordingley is also from Canada. Shame on me for thinking that this was just kind of a blanket thing that people would be excited about.
I'm going to be very honest with you here. I do not like soccer. I do not like the way they flop and flip and do all that, that soft stuff. I'm not a fan of it, so I have not paid any attention to it. But I do know that, it's been on the news and people are happy about it, but I'm not a fan.
Okay. That is an honest take from the Nighthawk head coach, Troy Cordingley. I would just point this out. Yeah, the MVP from last year, SGA. Yeah, King Flopper there, right? Like, people were pointing that out. Your favorite NFL quarterback at some point, I'd even say Josh Allen, might just kind of embellish things a little bit. Hockey players embellish hits. That's a lacrosse guy saying, no, our sport is tough. Play lacrosse. Some degree, I got to respect it.
I respect all of it.
And look, and soccer fans, like, there are really good friend, Evan Shute Appleman. They are a soccer family. His wife is the head coach for the RIT women. They know soccer. And, like, it drives them crazy that some people just kind of dump on soccer. We're not that show, but wouldn't you at least want somebody to if they don't like a soccer, they're gonna just identify themselves and not placate you and be like, oh, okay.
That was pretty awesome. I'm just surprised that he didn't even go to the go my country. It's just like, nope, the sport stinks.
That's it. Like that. Like I would think that would be a source of national pride. Like, oh, wait a second, we're not just here participating, we're winning. It was a different take. Hopefully that you check that out. Download the Odyssey app today. Troy Corringly at about 1:30-ish. You can listen back to that. We're 1 to 3 Eastern time locally here Monday through Friday. Except, well, next week we're going to go to Monday to Thursday, buddy. It's going to be so. We're going to kind of head in between training camp. Between now and training camp, this will be our last Friday show until we get to training camp. Speaking of training camp, because just got to mention this again, because honestly, I came in today and I told Dan DeLorean, you were a big part of us winning this award. And why was that? Because every year during training camp, he disappears to the Adirondacks. Just like how I will disappear around the 4th to Cape Cod. Dan and his family go up to the Adirondacks. That's their happy place. They didn't get their spots. So like this year, they went in like September, as I recall. Well, he helped us out training camp. And I'm like, well, that was the difference. We here, the Sports Bar, beat everybody else out in New York State. We won the New York State Broadcasters Association Award in the category of Best Single Locally Originated Sports Broadcast. This for our coverage during training camp last year. So basically it was, okay, we're looking at everything from 2025. We're going to give you the award now here in June of 2026. I'm like, that came out of nowhere. I didn't even know we were up for it. Had no idea. Found out this morning. So a lot of people deserve kudos on this, including, the guy that I was, partners here with for so many years, Danger, who is now our manager. Certainly helping out in every way he can. TA, Derek Abbey, fantastic engineer. Max Sheedy on video. And you two knuckleheads here, Dan DeLorean and Tim Schneider, who are always at the ready there. And it's not that easy doing those camp shows. That was the one thing. Between equipment overheating and schedules changing and just being always at the ready. So it was hard work, and to get recognized for it, that kind of means something, because I always feel like our station, our show, it's kind of the underdog here.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I feel like, and I have to be honest with you, like, and we're working on this, by the way, like the idea that this mandate from above run the commercials. No. We're going to get it's going to sound a little more Rochester coming up. I can guarantee you that. I can promise you that. But I can only control the hours here that we're allotted, 1 to 3. So we're just going to bring it from 1 to 3. And to kind of get recognized that and beat out everybody else out from the state, that's kind of meaningful. And you know what? It doesn't happen without people listening and contributing. So that is where I just wanted to say, in caps, thank you for making us a part of your day. Gene Battaglia here, the Sports Bar, as we'll be talking Ryan Talbot. And look, it's also the guys that help out with their time, like Ryan and Matt Perino. Ryan will be joining us here about in the hours. We'll talk about the recently completed minicamp, but we're looking ahead here to the offseason. Also, the Bills made this signing at running back yesterday, which was kind of odd. Ian Wheeler? Do we give this guy any chance? Ryan Talbot coming up at the bottom of this hour. 585-866-4326. That is the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. A football story, and in the football weeks here around the 4th of July, you hope there's not a lot of news, because if there is news, that means it's not good for your team. For like in recent years, it was, hey, it's Aaron Rodgers. Will he play? Will he not play? And I just pictured Rodgers just kind of sitting there watching coverage of himself nodding or just getting all pissy. He's such a narcissist, right? Well, sorry, it's not going to be Rodgers talk. It's going to be Brandon Sorsby's talk. The exiled quarterback from Texas Tech wants to enter the supplemental draft. Not just yet. He's actually going to have a pro day. It's going to be July 10th. Apparently all 32 teams will be there. Okay, July 10th. What else are you doing on July 10th? Can you imagine that scout that was like has to go down there like thinking, oh, good, I can spend some time with the family before training camp and everything kind of opens. Nope, you got to go see Brandon Sorsby.
We don't even have a show that day.
Yeah, I like there should be like all 32 teams. Like, why? Wouldn't there be some teams like don't even bother? At least that would be that. Look, if in the Bills. Don't bother.
Yeah, it's a red flag, and you don't need him.
You don't need him. Well, Gene, you could develop into something. We're not developing quarterbacks here. If Josh Allen gets hurt this year, shame on me for even phrasing that, then the season's over. I don't care if it's anything more than 4 weeks, there's no quarterback that's going to rescue you, especially like a rookie like Brandon Sorsby. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not interested in developing quarterbacks here. Like, Trubisky last year seemed perfect. And maybe you'll bring up a different backup quarterback at some point. Sauce Gardner wants everyone to know, you're laughing at this, he's not 25 years old. He's 24. Okay.
Took him 24 years to realize it.
How did this get wrong? How did we go along? Like, I thought there was, like, this thing called the NFL draft, the combine, everything else that you would know. You would have birth certificates. You would have everything else. This isn't a baseball player from an underprivileged country that comes in and lies about their age, and that is an issue, right? Because there really aren't records or anything. Yeah, you know what? He's 16. Actually, he's 22. You know, like, that happens frequently. I'll give you at the other end of the spectrum because ageism is a problem. Marv Levy lied about his age. It was Leo Roth from the Democratic Chronicle years ago that looked at him like, okay, I'm doing the timeline here. This doesn't add up. And it was something like Marv lied about 5 years until finally years later somebody called him out on it. Which, in reality, if you're doing the job, what does it matter? Well, in coaching, even back then, people want to type. People don't want to hire the 65-year-old or whatever he was. But, hey, if you make him 59, like that things like that, it's crazy to think. Now, way more difficult to get away with in this day and age, right? I don't think like a head coach like Pete Carroll can't all say, hey, I'm 65 actually all along, guys. I just find it funny that and there's no reason for Sauce Gardner to lie. He's just kind of just pointing this out. It's like the player that, hey, you've been saying my name wrong the whole way because we were saying for years and years and years, Travis Etienne. When he gets down to his native New Orleans, it's like, no, it's Travis Etienne. What? Okay, great. Like, I'm happier we're getting this right, but that's your name. You need to correct us on this.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, at what point did Sauce Gardner have 2 birthdays and then not, like, just forgot that he was actually, like, he went from 14 to 16? Was it forever? Like, was he just born one?
I don't think he's paying attention.
Yeah,
Tim, I don't think he's paying attention to this stuff. I think somebody probably pointed out to, or you see it maybe once or twice, so like, okay, it's a typo, whatever. I mean, you're
in Madden.
Yeah, it's like, right. That's where I think he was like, okay, if it's in Madden, then I'm the wrong age. Can we at least make this correct? So right now, and I love how, like, you have these stories. Oh, ESPN isn't covering soccer enough. Okay, actually, they're, breaking news, Pulisic. You're just kind of joining us. Oh, that's kind of a bummer. Christian Pulisic is not playing for the United States today. Game taking place in Seattle coming up top of this hour. I'm going to agree with the great Megan Rapinoe. Hydration breaks in the World Cup are stupid. Okay, we're not playing in Qatar. Okay, yes, our temperatures are warmer, but can we just call it for what it is? These are commercial breaks, period. End of story. That's all this is. You really can't run 30 seconds while action is going on. Or you can't do the split screen while action is going on. What FIFA has done, they have wrecked one of the things that make it special. Because, hey, sorry, don't be a soccer snob, okay? We just float in once every 4 years. But it's okay that we're joining the party, is it not? And when you join the party and you sit down and watch one of these games, you're like, wow, this is awesome. Can you imagine if all sports kind of did this? Hey, just nonstop action. And there's some things that we can poke fun of, like the mystery time at the end, stoppage time, whatever. But that is one of the things that I think is great about the sport. That, hey, here's the first half, and we're not breaking. You're going to pay attention. And as a result, in today's fast-paced society, hey, these games end up in 2 hours. Well, you just wrecked one of the things because that is complete BS. Hydration break. There's no bigger picture thing that, hey, we want to show children to hydrate or whatever this is. It's a commercial break. That's all this is. You're going to have, okay, great. We all know the importance of hydration. Pino says it's dumb. I agree with her.
I was watching the first games of the World Cup last Thursday, Mexico and South Africa, I think it was, and it went to that hydration break. I was like, okay, that's weird. It must be hot there today. And then I watched it during the U.S. game, and it's like, what are we doing? And the first thing I thought, like I'm sitting watching with my buddy, who's like, oh, soccer commercial. Unprecedented, but I guess this is normal now.
Yep. So, like, that's, let me see, Seattle temp. What is it in Seattle today? I'm going to guess it's going to be 74. 72.
You can play through that without some water.
72 degrees game time temperature in Seattle. What are you doing?
I understood doing it at previous World Cups when it was like 104 constantly, but come on. Like, again, it goes back to just the softness of the sport. Like, I enjoy watching it, but it's really hard for somebody who considers himself hockey guy to dive into soccer when it's just slow-paced hockey to me.
Well, the first thing you notice is the flopping. That, if you can draw the cards and you can kind of do that, there isn't the penalties that need to be for embellishment or something like that. That drives me nuts. And I remember going to a Rhinos game. My first Rhinos game I went to wasn't at Falver. It was at the baseball stadium, right? And I'm just watching these players just go down. They're not getting up. And the fans are booing to the head. I'm like, get your butt up. What do we do? Like, if you're from a different sport, if you love football, I'm not talking about overseas football, I'm talking American football, you play through everything. That is the code, right? There's a difference between being hurt and being injured, right? You're hurt, you keep playing. And that's always a tough thing. And I want to say hockey's the same way. Basketball, I think that culture kind of came into the NBA just a little bit too much for my liking.
80s was awesome from what I see in videos.
Oh, of course it was. And that's why, like, I thought it was kind of awesome that, all right, the one game the Spurs did win, they won because they were physical. And then they wimped out. Stop. Mitchell Robinson, man. See, there's an example. Hurt finger, I don't care. I'm going to go out there. What do I need a finger for? I can't shoot to save my life. That's not my purpose. Ryan Talbot, New York Upstate. We haven't talked to Ryan here in weeks and weeks. It's great to catch up with him. We'll talk some Bills football coming up next. You can hit us up on X. We're at WGR Rochester, our handle. You can hit us up. Leave a comment there in the YouTube and Twitch saying hello to everybody. Gene Battaglia along with Tim Schneider, Dan Drummey. And this is The Sports Bar.
Update.
Wings a game behind Memphis in the International League race for the playoffs. 3 games left before the end of the first half of the season. Manager Matthew LeCroy on these final 3 games.
We just got to go and fight, compete. Right now things are going their way. I mean, you look at the inning we had tonight. That's just the way things are. But we got to fight. We talk about it every day in our advance. We put ourselves in a good spot. I think we were 7 or 8 games down going into May. We're playing for something. Just go out and play fearlessly. Not worry about making mistakes and see what happens.
Wings and Toledo once again to the stadium tonight. The Yankees hosting the Reds. Wyndham Clark is at 7 under. Shot a 69 today, a 4-shot lead at the U.S. Open. Webster's Jackson Orman teeing off at 246. Orman is 10 over. U.S. facing Australia, 3 o'clock in the World Cup. Christian Pulisic will not play. Gene Battaglia, WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Boy, we are so hungry for football, right? But something funny, like I just asked you random details about, players that might have scored twice in a game against the Buffalo Bills. I don't remember anything about Ian Wheeler, the Bears running back at the time, scoring against the Buffalo Bills in a preseason game, but it happened. The newest signing for the Buffaloes, talk about that and everything Bills related. Our good friend from the Shout podcast, as well as NewYorkUpstate.com. Ryan Talbot, first time in a few weeks. Ryan, appreciate the time today. And let's start out with Ian Wheeler because I look at the Bills running back room and I just see, all right, the 3 jobs should be set, right? Of course, James Cook. Of course, Ray Davis. Of course, Ty Johnson. They each have their role. But what about the depth behind that? What kind of chance does Wheeler have to be that player that might step in? Ryan, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. And, before I get to Wheeler, I just want to give you and everyone involved a congrats on the New York State Broadcasters Association Award. Well-deserved from camp last year. So congrats on that.
Well, that's very kind of you, Ryan. And if it's not for guys like you and Matt and everybody else that gives us our time, you guys make us look better. So thank you for bringing that up. And, it was something that was unexpected. We're looking forward to camp. Wheeler's going to be one of these guys. I look at this and I'm thinking, all right, is there depth behind the big 3 at running back in Buffalo?
Yeah, no, I think this is great competition in terms of Frank Gore Jr. Can Frank Gore Jr. maybe take that spot in terms of being the top guy on the practice squad in case one of those players goes down? Because you're right, the Bills' top 3 seems pretty well established. Obviously, James Cook, no one is going to take that role after leading the league in rushing. He's a superstar in this league. They love Ty Johnson. Ray Davis is coming off of an all-pro season as a return man. So those spots seem set in stone. But recently they waived injured Desmond Reed, UDFA that they had brought in, undersized player, but kind of an explosive back. And now they replace him with Wheeler, who, Wheeler was fun to watch in the UFL playoffs. He averaged 10 yards per carry between the 2 playoff games. 3 touchdowns in those 2 games for that matter. And he was a player that was a UDFA of the Bears, as you mentioned, scored 2 touchdowns against the Bills in a 33-6 preseason win. But then he tore his ACL about a week or 2 after that and was let go by the team. Had a very short stint on the New Orleans Saints practice squad for about a week last year. So he's just someone that was waiting for an opportunity, waiting to show that he was healthy after the ACL tear. And this is what the UFL is all about. I know it's, not the most popular league, but a lot of guys get signed because of it and get a shot in training camp, and he's one of them.
Yeah, as our guest here, Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, the Shout podcast. And minicamp is concluded. Now we got to wait until July 29th for training camp. And there are so many questions. Question number 1 here, Dorian Williams, what do we know? Is that job wide open right next to Terrell Bernard at linebacker? Or is this going to be just still Williams when he's ready and available? What is your read on that situation, Ryan?
My read is that job's there for the taking for a Caleb Elarms or Dorian Williams, when healthy, he's been a tackling machine. Flies all over the field. He's a good athlete. He still, has a lot of room to grow in terms of coverage. That's his biggest weakness. But going into this spring and summer, I thought, he was the favorite to start opposite Terrell Bernard, but now he's dealing with a lower body injury, and Elam Zor has been here since the draft, and he's been taking a ton of reps with this team. This is not Sean McDermott's defense where Dorian Williams has a few years of experience under his belt and has that over Elam Zor. They're all in Jim Leonard's defense in year one, and the more reps that Elam Zor is getting, the more I think he can actually beat out Williams and start the year as a starting linebacker with Terrell Bernard.
Yeah, it's one of those. All right, with the new alignments, are we assuming Bernard is going to be at middle linebacker? Could they test him on the outside? Like for Bernard being a team captain and kind of banged up last year, I just don't know what level to kind of expect. Will they experiment with him? What are your thoughts there on one of the leaders on defense there, Ryan?
I think they should at least experiment with the idea of moving him to a slightly different role because of his size, because of the injuries he's had. And now that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen, but it sounds like he's very excited about Leonard's scheme and how they envision him in it and what he can do. You know, he had a nose for the ball when he's been healthy. He's always in the right spot, it seems like, for interceptions, fumble recoveries, you name it. But injuries have really taken their toll on him. He was not anywhere close to 100% pretty much all of last season with that ankle injury, and it showed. So he has to prove that he can stay healthy, but I think it would be foolish for the Bills to at least not try to see what their best linebacker combination is, but also see who is best suited to be that, traditional middle linebacker in this new scheme.
Yeah, Ryan Talbot is our guest here. As sticking on that side of the ball, Ryan, as you look at the defensive line, this is this is where, all right, will Ed Oliver being on somebody's inside shoulder perhaps blossom even more this year, or Rousseau, or you're seeing Landon Jackson, of all these players that are going to be just a slightly different alignment. Which of these players, maybe it's somebody I haven't mentioned, who on the defensive line stands to benefit the most out of the new alignment here?
That's a great question because, if you're talking just the three-man front, Ed Oliver, I think, is the obvious answer just because of his explosiveness, what he can do. Deion Walker, I'll be intrigued to see how they use him and move him around. He had an unbelievable rookie season, but you do have Landon Jackson, who put in the work in the offseason, building up his muscle mass and his size, and he looks like an NFL player. Now, mind you, we've had a lot of guys in the NFL look the part but not be able to play it, so hopefully he can back that up at training camp and really take on a role. But if we're throwing in the outside linebackers as well, I'm going to throw Bradley Chubb into the mix. This is someone that, when I watched him last year in Miami, I wasn't blown away with him. He had 8.5 sacks, but he looked a step slow. But it also made sense. He was coming off of an ACL injury from 2024, and usually it takes a year and a half plus for guys to look like themselves. So now you're throwing him into this attacking style defense where he's had some success in this league. He's a year plus removed from that ACL injury. He's someone I'm really excited to watch in this scheme. To see how he does in terms of maybe giving the Bills someone that can be a double-digit sack artist. They haven't had someone like that consistently or in quite a while, for that matter.
Yeah, sticking with the defensive side of the ball, and it's the newness of the coordinator, a lot of new assignments here, a lot of new pieces too, like through the draft. And I thought it was noteworthy that Bills spent a second-round pick on Davidson Igbinosun, and now that we can say his name correctly here after practicing it for a little bit, what about that? Is it a competition opposite Christian Benford here? Because, if we're reviewing Harrison year one, okay, we saw some things, but not nearly enough. I'm wondering if IGB, as he's become known, if he's actually a better fit for the scheme here. What are your thoughts on the corner position opposite of Christian Benford?
Yeah, I'm not ready to say it's a competition yet. Hairston, when healthy, really did show out. He was able to record some interceptions in big games and big moments. And you even had Jim Leonard now on the record saying that he was very high on Hairston coming out when he was in Denver on that or with that team in that system, thinking that he could be a good fit there. So I think this is Hairston's job to lose. But we were just talking about players being incapable of staying healthy or having injury issues. Hairston's only been in the NFL for 1 year, but he does have some injury issues from his time in college and the pros. He is a smaller frame player. He's got to be able to stay healthy, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they went out and they added Igbinosun. I've mentioned this before. The last 4 years in the playoffs, every game they've been eliminated. It's come down to the fact that they haven't had one of their starting cornerbacks, and in big moments, those backups have been exposed. So it's good to add a player of that caliber, someone that really worked on his game last season in the college ranks in terms of saying, I need to cut down on my penalties, I need to turn my head around. That's one of the biggest issues you still have in the NFL with a lot of these cornerbacks. And he went from 12 defensive penalties to 4 in that final season at Ohio State. So, I'm high on the player. I just think it's Hairston's job as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you the question that you don't know the answer to, but I think, and you guys talking about on the Shop Podcast, we're all curious. Like, all right, Trey White showed some things. All right, after kind of a slow start last year, came up big in the playoff win against Jacksonville, was great down the stretch, and he's still sitting out there. And I'm just wondering, all right, what are the reasons for that? Well, money, maybe. Maybe it's he's looking for an opportunity maybe elsewhere. Maybe it's, hey, you're only corner 4 here potentially in Buffalo. If it's White or somebody else, Ryan, I do think that for the reasons you just mentioned, hey, you don't want this to repeat there. You need depth. I think there's an opportunity here for a veteran corner that wants to sign in Buffalo knowing that, hey, you might not be the starter here, but at some point we might need you.
Yeah, absolutely. I could argue that. I could argue linebacker with a case like Shaq Thompson or something like that as well. But, Trey White, if I'm his agent, he probably didn't get a lot of interest in terms of free agency. You had a lot of younger players going elsewhere. Then you have the draft, and a lot of the team's needs get addressed there. So now he's probably just sitting out there waiting to see if an injury pops up at training camp or as the season progresses, where then he has more of an opportunity to get onto the field to show what he can do. Unfortunately, this is the nature of the beast when you do have, injuries in your past and you're no longer necessarily in your prime. White was great last year, don't get me wrong. But he's probably just playing the waiting game, and maybe the waiting game lands him back in Buffalo. But I do think a veteran gets added to this mix here at some point because, like you said, you want as much depth as possible this summer and going into the season.
Ryan Talbot is our guest. On the other side of the ball, we haven't talked about the wide receivers yet. The Keon Coleman question. I'm having some deja vu with Keon Coleman here. This feels like this time last year where, all right, hey, this wasn't up to par rookie season, but look at these plays that he's making, and he's showing promise, and you get to training camp, and there you see it with your own eyes. And then after week 1, and then it kind of starts going sideways. What would be the hope that actually he does take a step forward here? Because, Ryan, I would have to think this is it for him. He's got to step his game up here in Buffalo. There won't be a year 4 if we get more of the same.
Yeah, and there's a few wide receivers in that draft class. Leggett pretty much said the same thing in Carolina. I need to be much better this year to stick around in this league. And Keon Coleman's in that same boat to stick around in Buffalo and beyond. And he said all the right things this offseason, and it's funny because Matt and I will be doing our podcast, and Keon Coleman's been pretty good in terms of these mini camps, the mandatory mini camps, and you get the eye rolls from the fans. We've heard this before, but if he's performing well, you do have to report it. You do have to share these things, and I think the biggest difference here is now going into this year, he doesn't have to take on a sizable role. I think there were expectations last year for him to take on a larger role than maybe he was ready for, maturity-wise, talent-wise. But now you have DJ Moore in this system, who's definitely their number 1 wide receiver. We know how much they love Khalil Shakir. You have Dalton Kincaid, who's really bulked up at tight end. You're hoping that he can stay healthy because you know how much they love him and what he's meant to this team when he's been on the field. James Cook in the backfield, who I think will see a much bigger role in the passing game with Pete Carmichael coming in. I know he's not calling the plays, but that's a big emphasis of his career is getting the backs the ball out of the backfield as pass catchers. So now you've already knocked him down to maybe target number 5 in this offense. And that's an area where I think Keon Coleman can do well. And he's not going to have necessarily gaudy numbers, but he's going to be a quality blocker. That maybe with the expectations lower, he's definitely not going to be drawing the number 1 or the number 2 cornerbacks on these teams. You can move him around a little bit and play him as a big slot. It's going to be fun. He's doing all the right things, saying all the right things, training with Stevie Johnson, little things like that this offseason all adds up. And maturity-wise, as long as he catches up there too, I think he could have a solid season with everyone understanding that, this guy is not going to be a quality never going to be a wide receiver 1 in this league and probably never going to be a wide receiver 2 in Buffalo.
Ryan, I think you do a great job there tracking the UDFAs as soon as the draft is over. All right, you've got the connections. You're telling us about now that we passed minicamp and we're looking at next time we'll see him, we'll be right here in Rochester. Are there any guys that, long shots, those undrafted rookies, or maybe it's somebody from the practice squad last year, like who on the back end do you think you're going to be keeping an eye on as they're going to be trying to fight for a job here coming up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would have said Jackson Acker, the fullback that they added as UDFA. Reggie Gilliam leaves in free agency. And I don't know if he's dealing with some kind of injury, but we didn't really see him at all this spring. They signed Van Sumeren, who was with the Eagles and got injured on the first play of the season last year with Philadelphia. So there's a competition there, but it's going to be very tough for a lot of these guys to come in and really impress on the back end of this roster to claim a spot on that 53-man roster. But it's going to be fun nonetheless. There might be some UDFAs from last year's group that show out and do enough. There are some areas on this team where I think they are looking for talent. We mentioned linebacker, we mentioned cornerback already. So there's opportunities there. There's opportunities on this O-line for a depth spot or two. So hopefully we'll have a fun story of someone kind of coming out of nowhere and surprising us.
Yeah, as Ryan, Tuesday we're going to have news because hey, it's the ribbon cutting ceremony, and for some members, I could bet that Matt Perino will be there to get in the tour on the inside, and that's going to be exciting. I haven't wrapped my mind around it, but what are your thoughts? I said this earlier. To me, it's a little sad seeing these photos coming out of hey. That stadium that you went through all those years and years, here's how it looks today in real time with the scoreboard down and stands gone already. They're making quick progress there of the demolition of the old barn.
Yeah, they are. It's crazy to see the videos that come out, like you said, where pretty much everything has been taken down in terms of the seats, and you're seeing a lot of progress there. A lot of good memories of the stadium, but there's also something exciting about the newness of the stadium across the street. I've seen a lot of differing opinions on these Buffalo statues that have been getting put out there throughout the week. I believe they're on Buffalo number 2 now, with that futuristic look to them that they'll light up at night with different colors. So that'll be fun, and then right after camp's over, we'll have that return of the red and blue scrimmage, and that'll be, one of probably my first time on the sidelines because we walk around on the sidelines for that one and really getting to take in this new stadium. So there's a lot of excitement, but there's also a lot of sadness, like you said, when you see those videos of, like you said, the scoreboard getting knocked down and stuff like that, especially because I don't think that was that old of a scoreboard that I'm surprised you couldn't reuse that in some capacity.
Yeah, for sure. There's not a high school that wouldn't take that in or a Division III school in the area. It's like, well, okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's all right. Maybe hopefully they at least recycled it. Ryan, next time we see the Bills is going to be at Fisher, and the next time you will see the Bills at Fisher. In years past, we've had Shout do kind of your remote broadcast, so to speak, there, appearing on Park Ave. Anything in the works coming up this summer?
We do have something in the works, nothing quite official yet, but we should be doing a live show at a spot out there this summer, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, well, definitely we'll be dropping in. Ryan, what can we check out here is, hey, now this truly is the off season, but there will be stories that will come up. What's kind of the schedule for you and Matt and the Shout podcast, and what can we check out here at NewYorkUpstate.com?
Yeah, we'll be looking at some position battles going into training camp and things of that nature. 53-man roster projections. I put out a win-loss prediction pre-training camp already. So there'll be stuff like that. Matt just released an interview that he did with Joe Brady. So still a lot of content to take out of that as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now as we wait for training camp.
Well, Ryan, really appreciate your time. Have a great summer. We'll see you out at St. John Fisher University, and thank you for everything that you and Matt do for us here.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Ryan Talbot joining us here on the show. Interesting. Like, okay, he just painted a scenario where Keon Coleman be wide receiver 5. If he didn't spend a second-round pick to become wide receiver 5.
It's a nice problem to have, though.
I guess you're going under the best case scenario, and that is also kind of the thing too, is that we're not the only ones guilty of this. Every fan base is guilty. You're all looking at the best case scenario, right? And not even realizing that this league is hard. And when you're facing another guy, this all isn't going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. There's going to be adversity. So for Keon Coleman, yeah, I would hope in the best case scenario for Keon Coleman will be wide receiver 3, that you work him all around. I want to see Shakir. Like, Coleman should be able to take snaps away from Josh Palmer. Skylar Bell should not be jumping ahead of Keon Coleman at this point. But it's available. Wide receiver 5 or 6 on this team, by the way. It should be for special teams. Trent Sherfield, certainly. And then when he comes back there, Shavers, I would think. Last call is for you before we head to the weekend, Father's Day weekend. 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here, WGR Rochester.
You're hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Ernie Clement getting the day off. It's been, it's after he was above 300, and the story's like, wait, he's leading the balloting right now at second baseman for good reason. It's baseball. It's been a rough week. He's now batting below 300. There's nothing wrong with that, but just giving him a day off. And the Jays got their work cut out for him. Kevin Gausman gave up 7 earned runs in the first inning.
That's a tough start.
Yeah, it's the catcher Carson Kelly with a grand slam at Wrigley. Who knows? I have no idea if the wind's blowing out there or not, but 7-0 Cubs as they are in the second. Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you, Tim Schneider. Fun show here we had today. As tonight, again, for the Wings game, if you're going out, 6:45 we'll be out there throwing the first pitch. And since we'll be out there, you'll see what we look like. And if you see us at the ballpark, please stop and say hello. Because here in Sports Bar 2.0, so to speak, we value for making us part of your day. The other thing, too, is, I can't believe this actually happened today, but woke up to find out that we actually won the New York State Broadcasters Association Award. So it's just kind of, all right, we're putting in good work, and camp is right around the corner once again. 585-866-4326. Jackson Ormond yesterday shot an 80. He's just teeing off now. 246. So they haven't posted what he did here on the first hole. Look, good experience, right? But you're not going to exactly make the cut. On Father's Day, I'm just hoping for something that will kind of keep us glued, right? Like the U.S. Open always kind of, what the USGA does, they just want to embarrass these golfers. But I'm a little surprised, though, that Wyndham Clark is followed up his 64 round of 69. So Matt Fitzpatrick, Xander Schauffele, they are 4 shots back. Colin Morikawa at 2 under. He shot a 65 today. So, all right, there's some well-known golfers posting good rounds. Justin Thomas shot a 68. Rory McIlroy, he's on the leaderboard just off today, at 1 under. So just going off just now, I should say. So certainly we hope for that'll be happening as well. Monday, a lot of hockey talk next week. That's the forecast here. And if you're somebody that doesn't like hockey, I'm sorry. This is the big time for the Sabres. Again, Kevin Weeks reporting that Zach Benson's going to get taken care of. 7 years, $7 million a year.
7 and 7. Yep.
That's a bargain. Absolute bargain if that's true. But who might that prevent? Again, it's great for Benson, but the idea that we don't really have anything on Alex Tuck right now kind of leads me to think, all right, on Wednesday, July 1st, Alex Tuck will be a fill-in-the-blank here. Pick a team. He'll be a Nashville Predator or something like that. If you missed any of today's show, Dan DeLorean has it up for you wherever you get your fine audio. You can also download the Odyssey app and listen to us 1 to 3 Eastern time. Again, see you at the ballpark tonight. Let's go Wings. See if the Wings can finish the job, get on top of first place there in the International League, and head to the postseason. Show up in the Bulldog coming your way next. For Tim Schneider, for Dan Drumming, my name is Gene Battaglia, and this is Rochester Sports Leader, the award-winning sports bar on 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.